So Amazon have announced that on the 31st of January 2027, they will be taking the servers for New World offline. As someone who has played this game avidly since 2021, this news is absolutely devastating. The game was not perfect. It had many, many, many faults. It launched in 2021 with millions of players. Breaking the concurrent player record on Steam was a huge success right off the bat, and it's just wowed everyone with this like beautiful action combat system and the absolutely gorgeous graphics, and the sound design when gathering, mining, and logging was just impeccable, and everyone fell in love with it. But then there were just so many bugs and just not enough content, and so they lost their player count very quickly because of the amount of shit that was wrong with the game. They hired devs to try and solve the problem, but because they were working on their bespoke dev engine, they had to train those devs how to develop on that engine before they could actually work on the bugs or work on new content. So a lot of people quit the game, myself included. And then a year later, we got a big update. Brimstone Sands, fresh start servers, whole new wave of players coming in. And I went back to play the game and really, really enjoyed the experience of like leveling my trade skills and stuff. Like on the original launch, there were so many people that you couldn't find like veins of iron to mine to be able to level up your skill. It was a very competitive environment with that amount of people. Every server ran to the fullest. So going back when there was a lower player count, I got to enjoy a lot more of the game that I didn't get to enjoy the first time around. But then weirdly enough, as the player count spiked back up, I didn't actually play the Brimstone Sands. They'd had this spike in player count again with Brimstone Sands, like all this new content's been added and heart runes and brand new zone, massive new zone with the sandworm raid and, you know, actual stuff for people to do. And then they ran out of content again and the player count died down, and they went on and on like this. You know, Angry Earth, the Rise of the Angry Earth expansion, it was the first paid DLC, huge. Still salty that they gutted First Light because I loved that zone. It was my first starting zone, but they changed First Light into the Elysian Wilds, made it an elite zone, added mounts to the game, which was huge for anyone who had to experience running across Aeternum. But again, it had the same problem where they added all of this stuff and they added all of this content, but it wasn't enough to keep people playing the game long term. There was no longevity to the content. And then as we went into 2024, they were saying to the community, the active community that was still playing, who were like, we've got something big coming. Sorry, there's no content in this season, nothing to do in this season, guys, because we've got something really big coming. And we get to the announcement and we get to October, and all it is the rebrand to New World Aeternum with the console launch. And we get a raid. We get the Hive of Gorgons raid, and that's basically it, right? But we're doing Fresh Start again. I didn't do Fresh Start the first time around. I regretted not taking part. I wanted to go again, and I said to myself, I'm going to give this one last go. I'm gonna make a Fresh Start character. I'm going to play Fresh Start. One of the other things I never did was I never really branched out too much from my friend group. I had been in companies and I'd taken part in wars, but I'd never run anything. And one of the problems I had with companies and guilds was a lot of gear checking and like gatekeeping of certain content that was entirely based on skill. And I didn't like that. I was always against that. So I decided I was going to make my own guild and that I would help new players and bad players to experience content with, you know, both PvP and PvE. And we did that. By God, we did that. First off, I ended up merging into another guild and being a consul until eventually the governor decided he didn't want to play the game anymore because he wasn't having as much fun after server merges. So I took over running that company. But over the course of a year, the longest period that I'd stayed playing New World, I ran this company, this warring company that took in anybody and gave everybody a chance to have a go at war. And we did Hive of Gorgon raids, and we did mutas, and we did OPRs, we did silly builds. I mean, anybody who's watched a video on my channel knows that we just fucked around and had fun. And it was one of the best years of my life running that company. The thrill of shot calling a war to victory, the pure elation of beating an enemy that has been pissing you off in a 50 versus 50 or 30 versus 30, which often happened as well. And then we'd gotten to a point where going into season 9, going in towards season 10, they had this whole new Nighthaven content update. They did the PSN release, and there were so many people coming to play the game because it was free on PlayStation Network. They put new servers up, and we ended up moving the guild to a newer server where I made a lot of friends. A lot of friends. We set up a league for shit tier players to go and do war. We had just so much fun. I've got so many VODs of like wars that I might make public. We were ready. We were prepared for season 10. The season 10 drop, it was way more than we expected. We got Nighthaven. Nighthaven was what we expected, what I expected. But then we got all the gear set changes and the reworks to artifacts. It was huge, absolutely huge update with loads of stuff and the brand new like gearing system and umbrals. And the game was looking like, for the first time in 4 years, it was looking like they were getting it right. Because they had such a winning formula of a game, and they were finally getting it right. And that correctness was so refreshing. And we were so excited. And there was a new raid, right? And I spent the first 3 weeks of the new season smashing that raid with a small group of people from my company. But after the 3 weeks, we basically were like, okay, cool, we're back into war mode now. We'll get our builds sorted. Everyone's had a chance to level up and gear up and get some umbrals, start leveling gear. We've understood vaguely what meta is developing. Let's start getting our builds together. We're going to go to war. We're going to attack everyone. The brakes are off. We're going to just fucking war. And literally within 5 minutes of me making that announcement on our Discord and everybody reacting to that announcement, someone shared a link to the articles about people being let go from Amazon. And then 30 minutes later, the announcement came that they were shutting down development for New World, and they were shutting down Amazon Game Studios, and they were leaving a skeleton crew in place to run the game. I was absolutely heartbroken. Within a day, the community, the Discord, the community that we had built for this company that we were running, went from crazy active to barely any activity. Nobody wanted to talk about it. Nobody wanted to play the game. Nobody wanted to do anything. Everyone was just sad. And the thing is that there is nothing else to go to. Most of the people in the company decided to stop playing that day, and they quit. They immediately uninstalled the game because they were fed up. They were fed up of being played by AGS for years, fed up of being given no content and having to spam the same stuff over and over again for enjoyment. And they finally quit and they gave up and they uninstalled the game. The majority of people were gone. Within a couple of hours, my company went from being like, I was having to like very strictly remove people for inactivity to be able to free up slots for new people that wanted to join. It went from that to no activity at all because nobody was playing. Nobody wanted to play the game anymore. They were done. Completely and utterly done. And I've got a few people that are still playing the game now, 2 or 3 guys that are still logging in and they're warring with companies and they're still trying to they show us the streams of the wars and stuff, and I still get that feeling. But we've played everything. We've played WoW, we've played The Division, we've played Final Fantasy, we've played Guild Wars, we've played fucking Hytale and Minecraft and Power. Nothing compares in enjoyment to the way New World was. Because New World wasn't a perfect game. It was not a perfect game. But New World was staying up until 2 a.m. mining because it was soothing to the soul. New World was 50 people in a voice chat screaming in joy when you win a war. New World was helping out some random low-level guy who was struggling, just randomly giving them money or something just because you thought it be interesting. New World was finding people that you were just killing in a fort in the open world and dancing with them in a settlement. New World is getting banned from Discords because you call people idiots. New World was home. And now it's gone. Or it will be gone. I said goodbye with my last video to the war scene, to the company. I now say goodbye to the game. Goodbye, New World.